Hi, and welcome to this edition of the Insurance Experts. It's my pleasure to have once again on the line Dale Kraus. Dale is a Medicaid planning legend, and he invented a lot of the Medicaid compliant annuities product on the market today. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so last time we discussed a solution for married couples and how to do a Medicaid compliant annuity, and there was a lot of cost savings for that. Today we wanted to talk a little bit about for a single individual. So first of all, tell us a little bit about how the Medicaid rules differ between a couple and a single person when they're doing the Medicaid planning strategies.
Yeah, when we have a couple, and let's say one spouse is in the nursing home, the other's at home, we can save about 100% of what's out there by doing a Medicaid compliant annuity plan. But when we have the couple, the person who's all alone in the nursing home, generally what we do in those cases is we can save about half the funds, protecting it in a Medicaid compliant annuity plan. So with a couple, you can save 100%. With an individual, you can save about 50%.
Okay, and the reason for that kind of fundamentally is that the state becomes the beneficiary on the single person's plan. Is that kind of what's happening when you're doing the Medicaid compliant annuities?
Well, I think when you have the couple, we're always worried about the healthy spouse being impoverished. And so there's a lot more Medicaid opportunities to do planning for the healthy spouse. Whereas when a person's all alone, the government really wants them to pay as much as they can towards their care before they qualify for Medicaid. And so our planning strategy is a little bit different with an individual versus the couple.
Okay, so even in saving 50%, obviously that could be a large number of amount of savings for the family. So let's talk about a case study. I know you had a client, Nancy. Tell us a little bit about her situation.
Yes, in that case, Nancy, their children were not close by, so it was very difficult for them to help her. But she was facing a nursing home stay, and she went in, and her prognosis dealt with a little bit of Alzheimer's dementia. So because of her cognitive impairment, it was felt that she was a safe environment for her with some of her ADL assistants would be a nursing home. And so she went into a nursing home facility that was charging $8,000 a month. And the family is concerned that with a life savings of about $100,000, that it wouldn't take long for the life savings to be wiped out in that process, and wanted to work with a Medicaid planner so that they could protect something. And so they dealt with our firm dealing with the plan.
Okay, and so if she's private paying it at $8,000 a month with $100,000 of assets, she has about 12 months where she'll spend down her assets. What would be the alternative, let's say, if you were doing a Medicaid compliant annuity? And I know we are going to talk about a gifting strategy, for example.
Yeah, so what we would do in her case is we know in order for her to be eligible for Medicaid, she can have $2,000 in a savings account, some personal property, a prepaid funeral. And so what we're going to do with the $100,000, which is considered excess countable resources that she can have, is we're going to give about half of those funds away, and we're going to use the other half to buy a Medicaid compliant annuity, which will allow her to almost privately pay for her care. And the goal of the plan is you make the gift, you buy the annuity, you apply for Medicaid. She would be ineligible for X number of months, at which time not only the penalty but the annuity run. And when the plan's finished, then she goes on Medicaid. And so at the end of the plan, the gift amount is protected for her benefit.
Right. I think from the outside, the perception is that most Medicaid strategies involve spending down all the assets right away. In this case, you're actually buying an annuity and you're extending out the private play period, but then qualifying her shorter than the 12 months it would take for her to spend down her assets out of pocket.
Yes, if she does nothing at all, we know that the money's gone in a very short time. And with the Medicaid compliant annuity gifting plan, we're going to protect about 50% of her accountable resources for her benefit. Again, there's no legal obligation when we engage in a gifting plan, but the money's still available to assist her and provide care that she wouldn't get through Medicaid.
Okay, so the gifting, you're saying about $50,000 being gifted. Who's receiving that gift?
Now, the gift typically would be made directly to the children, or it could be in a trust for their benefit. So in this case, Nancy could establish a trust agreement and put the funds into it. And then because she irrevocably assigns her interest in it, the money is designed to go to the next generation.
Okay, and so $50,000 is going in as a gift, and I know that popular conception is if you gift something, it becomes a countable asset. There's a look-back period. Why does this work in the context of the look-back period that Medicaid rules require?
Now, the look-back period only counts at the time of application, and what the Medicaid office wants to do is they ask the question, in the last 60 months prior to the app, did you give anything away? And in this case, if Nancy gives away half of her accountable resources, that would be disclosed on the application. The value that she gives away then creates a penalty period for which she's ineligible in the future for Medicaid benefits. And so we're building that into the whole strategy. We know that by making a gift, she's going to be ineligible, but we're utilizing a Medicaid compliant annuity in order to privately pay during the penalty phase. The end result is the gift to be on the sidelines, which again can be available to take care of things that she may not get from Medicaid or other programs.
Right, and this might sound like a penalty period is a bad thing, but in this case, it's intentional because it's going to result in a higher benefit at the end of the 8-month period when the annuity runs out.
That's correct.
Okay, so this is a case where you have a Nancy who's going to potentially live a long time in the nursing home. You're able to protect 50% of the assets through the gift, and then the annuity, of course, is going to pay for the care. What happens if, let's say, Nancy is in a terminal situation where you expect there not to be much time left in the nursing home just due to her health? Would you recommend a different strategy, or is this still a good strategy for her?
Yeah, if someone's terminal and you're not expected to live very long, then typically what we recommend is a standalone Medicaid compliant annuity. And the goal of the standalone is, we take all of the assets that are in jeopardy that make her ineligible for Medicaid, and we buy an annuity that's structured over her lifetime. Now, the goal of that plan is, we are going to go on Medicaid right away, and we are going to pay back the state at the Medicaid rate, but the end result gives us a better result than had we just privately paid. Because most nursing home facilities have a higher private pay rate. It could be $2,000 or more over their Medicaid rate.
I see. So the reason for doing this is that you can utilize the Medicaid, the better negotiating power they have in terms of what the facility costs, and you kind of can leverage that effect with the Medicaid compliant annuity that you're purchasing.
Yes, you're going to take advantage of the Medicaid rate, which if it's $2,000 or more less than the private pay rate, rather than spending the higher rate, you're going to pay at the lower rate, which offers a savings in itself.
Okay, so $100,000 in this case, are you using the full amount to buy the Medicaid compliant annuity instead of half?
Yeah, in an individual case, a person can have $2,000 and that's it. So if we have $100,000, we'd have to spend $98,000 on the standalone Medicaid compliant annuity.
Okay, and then she's qualifying for Medicaid right away instead of after the 8-month period, but because of the savings on the Medicaid rate, it makes more sense for a shorter terminal event.
Yes, again, when someone's terminal and they're not expected to last a long time, the standalone Medicaid compliant annuity plan has a distinct advantage over the gifting Medicaid compliant annuity plan. So again, in cases where someone has a very short life expectancy, we do the standalone. Where we're not certain how long they're expected to live and they could be in the nursing home a rather long time, then we would implement the gifting Medicaid compliant annuity strategy.
Okay, so it sounds like that one's more common, but it sounds like even if your loved one is going to be in a nursing home for even a few months, you can utilize one of these strategies. It's never almost too late to do it, correct?
That's right. It's never too late to do the plan because even if we utilize a gift, we're intentionally making the gift. So it's not like we're going to make it so that we can never qualify for Medicaid. We build the gift into the plan knowing that it is going to create an ineligibility period, but we've already taken that into consideration when we develop the strategy.
Okay, well, I appreciate, again, your time being on the line. We talked about couple strategies. We talked about single-person strategies. I'm sure you have all kinds of other ideas up there. So we're going to have some more episodes, and thanks for joining us again.
Thank you for having me.